Happy almost 4th of July. Of course, in Des Moines here, we tend to celebrate the 4th on the 3rd. We have the Yankee Doodle Pops concert at the state capitol. Always a fun time, followed by lots of fireworks and a great feeling of being in the land of the home, the free, and the sometimes brave. So check that out, folks. Great event tonight in downtown Des Moines. I do want to thank Brother Trucker for the bumper music I've used since the start of this program. That's their tune, Downtown. I want to thank the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club and also Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility, and of course the Great March for Climate Action for being the organizational promoters of this program. And a quick nod to Gateway Market and Cafe for sponsoring this segment of our show. And don't forget to support the other businesses that make this program possible. Businesses like Tinker Heating and Cooling. Yep, got an AC issue, give Tinker a shout. Also, Hawk Restaurant at East 5th and Walnut in the East Village. And the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit coming up in November. We're going to hear from Ying Sa about that next week. Okay, so before we talk with Bob Philippone with the Des Moines On Stage about the upcoming Cabaret, which is a fundraiser for the Children's Theater, I gotta say, Governor Branstad, you should be treated like other people, okay? You should have to abide by the speed limit and behave yourself when you're driving. There's lots of ways in which you seem to think you're above the law. And now, this is a very interesting story here. We're not going to talk about it much. We need to do a little more research. But apparently, the DCI, Department of Criminal Investigation agent, who suggested that the governor's vehicle should be pulled over for speeding in Northwest Iowa, he has been removed from duty. Oh my gosh. I mean, just... we got to know more about this, but it does not look good on the surface. And I hope that people will dig into this and remind the governor that he is not the God of Iowa. He's the public servant that leads the charge, maybe, but he should not be above the law. And to use your kind of authority in that way. Again, I want to hear the rest of the details, look into it a bit more, but it did not look very good on the surface. All right. We're going to switch gears to a cultural conversation here, because this is, of course, the Des Moines being the cultural and culinary crossroads of America, and this program being the mouthpiece for that. We not only talk about the tough issues like climate change, which we're going to talk about with Channing Dutton later in the program, also about a lot of things to cover there, and specifically the what's being referred to as Australia's Summer of Fire. We're also going to talk with Maddie Kane, my producer, about how much fun she's having being a poor college student and what it's like to deal with massive mounds of college debt. But first, we're going to kick it off with Bob Philippone with Des Moines On Stage, and we're going to talk about the upcoming Children's Theater Cabaret fundraiser on July 13th. But first, Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And tell us a bit about Des Moines On Stage.
Des Moines On Stage officially opened in January of 2012, right on the Grand Avenue by the Red Cross. And it was primarily founded as a home for our children's theater, the Des Moines On Stage Children's Theater, which is a nonprofit. But we also provide space for other theater groups in the area, Repertory Theater of Iowa, Des Moines Social Club, as well as some other smaller organizations for rehearsal space, scene shop work, costume work, props, storage for their shows.
So I know that RTI and the Des Moines Social Club don't do performances there, but they use it for rehearsals and storage? Okay.
Exactly. And our performances are primarily at the Des Moines Social Club as well. We do some work with the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines as well.
I've been to one of your performances there.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So now the Des Moines Social Club, are you already performing out of their new venue on the fire station?
No, that is not set to open till January. RTI will have their first production there, and then we are doing a co-production with RTI. The Crucible is our first production in that space, so we're very excited about that.
And that's a children's production?
It is a co-production between our Children's Theater and the Repertory Theater of Iowa, where they'll provide the adults and we'll provide the children. It'll be an interesting one. Should be good.
So what got you involved with children's theater?
Well, when I was growing up, I started into children's theater in junior high school, being in it, and really changed my approach to life. I became a lot more outgoing, involved, and when my daughter started becoming of that age and started showing some interest in it, it had been about 15 years since I had done any theater, But I decided, it started through my church is how I got involved. So I started this out of the First Unitarian Church originally, but we were doing one show a year for a number of years. And when we upped it to 3 or 4 shows a year, we decided we need our own space to do that.
Yeah.
So it's been a great experience. I've met great people. Like you said, Des Moines is really a cultural hub. And I'm always constantly amazed at the amount of talent in the city. It's really a great place to do theater.
So you opened this kind of in part because of great memories of how theater affected your life positively as a young person, and because your daughter expressed interest in it. Has it drawn interest from people beyond your own immediate circles?
Absolutely. In the beginning, it was, pretty focused to our church. Although we were open to other people, we always opened auditions. We'd have 1 or 2 people from other places that would audition. But this past year, definitely have gotten people from, all of the schools, middle, high school, even some grade school, from in and out around Des Moines. And it's really grown as far as we have a lot of Drake University.
Oh, that's a good partnership.
Musical theater department. Great partnership. Hope to continue to grow that. They direct, choreograph, music direct some of our shows. So it provides opportunity for them to get some experience as well.
Okay, so cabaret. You hear cabaret, you think of Liza Minnelli. What good is sitting alone in your room? But this is not focused specifically on the musical cabaret.
No. This was just kind of a flashy name we came up with. It's basically, we're kind of using maybe a little loose interpretation of the title cabaret, but it is going to be both a representation of our plays from last year, the main one being 13, which was our final production of the year, which was a fabulous show.
Yeah, and I wanted to get to that, and something came up at the last minute. I was not able,
okay.
But I heard really, really good things about it.
Thank you. We had a great time with the show, and it really embodied everything we want to accomplish with this theater, and we hope to keep that momentum going. We are doing a summer show this year with a little bit younger age group called Shout. It's an a cappella musical. So there'll be some previews for that, which will be the last weekend in July. So we'll see some of their singing all a cappella, 4-part harmony. It's amazing. And we're also going to preview some of our shows from our upcoming season, the musicals. We're doing our Putnam County 25th Annual Spelling Bee and Annie, which is our final show next year.
Nice.
So we're going to do a little, and then also just whatever some of their favorite tunes of people that have been involved with us over the years, just coming to do some song and dance numbers just to entertain the crowds.
This is going to, I assume you have a day job.
Mm-hmm.
But this has got to be keeping you and maybe some other people real busy.
Yes, it definitely fills up most of our evenings and weekends. It can get a little trying, hard at times with the family, balanced family. But, there's such a reward for it personally and with the children that, I just can't see not doing it. When we were just doing one show a year, it was great, but we just felt like we needed to increase the opportunity for children. And every year we get more and more help and more support from the community. And our partnership this coming year with the Des Moines Social Club, we're going to kind of co-produce some of our shows, has really helped with that, as well as giving our children more exposure.
Yeah. Folks, if you'd like to join the conversation either now or at any point today, we're talking right now with Bob Philippone with Des Moines on Stage. We're going to shift gears and talk about college tuition shortly with Maddie Kane. And the second half of the program will be focused on climate change, on the connections between the crazy western wildfires, between drought, the jet stream, and all the connections between all of that and the incredibly wonderful weather we're having here in Iowa. And we're also going to look at the Australian Summer of Fire, as it's being referred to. So you're welcome to give us a call at any point during the program at 244-0077, 244-0077. So again, this is a fundraiser.
Exactly.
So I assume there's a ticket charge.
Yeah, it's more than we usually charge. It's $20 for admission, which I admit is a little bit higher than I usually like to charge for things. I like to make things accessible to people. But this is one of our primary fundraisers for the year. We have not had much luck in the past with getting grants We're hoping that changes as we get to be more known in the community.
Yeah.
But primarily, we've been existing off of a few people who have been supporting us, and as well as previous year's ticket sales.
Yeah.
So I encourage anyone to get involved. DesMoinesOnStage.org. You can go to for audition information and showtimes.
Yeah. No, it's really, as you pointed out for yourself, it was a very powerful experience to be able to act, and it gave you, I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but a sense of confidence and purpose, and certainly, I mean, I look at all the theater options available in Des Moines. It is incredible where we have come.
Quite a bit.
Yeah,
and it definitely is helpful for whatever you go into. I went into a career that has nothing to do with theater, and I really feel like it benefits me every day. The things I learned in theater. I started off college as a theater major and then switched courses midway through. But it is definitely something I encourage all children or adults to get involved in theater. Really, it's very beneficial.
Yeah, I've only done my involvement with theater has been from the musical side. I directed the musical portion of Jacques Brel is Alive and Well and Living in Paris, and also did the music for A Streetcar Named Desire once.
Wow!
And I did act once in a Spanish speaking. It was a play that Spanish students put on at Drake University.
Okay. Not
a single one of the students in the class had any background in theater. Okay. We were all embarrassing. But I was the least embarrassing because
it's fun.
I got to be Aesop in Aesop's Fable,
wow.
So I had the leading role.
Sure.
But
no, it's fun. It's just fun to be involved and do it.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. I mean, in terms of personal development, growth, understanding yourself better, learning how to put yourself in someone else's shoes. There's so many reasons why it's good on a number of personal levels, but it's also just a heck of a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
We have so much theater in Des Moines. Exactly. We just had Shakespeare on the Lawn. There's more Shakespeare coming up down at the amphitheater. What do we have? Like 7 or 8 theater troops in Des Moines now?
There's quite a few, and we're intimately involved with a number of them using our building. And so it's been great to get to know everyone through this endeavor. It's been one of the great kind of sideline benefits of it.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Bob Philippone, folks, with Des Moines on Stage. We're talking about the Des Moines on Stage Children's Theater Cabaret Fundraiser coming up on July 13th. It's 7 and 9 p.m. at the Social Club, Des Moines Social Club's current headquarters at 400 Walnut Street in the old Kirkwood Hotel. There is a $20 donation, but that's for a heck of a good cause. Again, it is a fundraiser that goes to help support the great work that the Des Moines on Stage is doing. So again, folks, put that on your calendar, July 13th. And Bob, I'll see you there.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I do want to take a second to thank, again, Gateway Marketing Cafe has been a great supporter of this program. They're, well, as you probably know, because I say it all the time, they're at 20th and Woodland in the Sherman Hill neighborhood. And not just a fantastic place for shopping for groceries, but a cafe for breakfast, lunch, and supper as well, and also a great catering service too. All the businesses that make the show possible, you can find out more information about them on the Fallon Forum website, and really support them because they're a big part of why this alternative exists. A couple others I want to mention my name, S&P Piano. Okay, so maybe you don't get to move a piano every day, but if you do, these guys are the ones to talk with because they are, not only are they really, really good at it, but they're entertaining. They're a lot of fun. S&P Piano, more information about that on my website. Also, Diana's Wedding Cakes, one of my Newton business supporters. And finally, Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering, which again is a fantastic Beaverdale venue with patio seating on the roof and on the street level as well. Check them out. That's Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering in Beaverdale. When we come back, Maddie Kane, my producer, is going to join me. We now have a camera in the producer's studio, and it's about time we tried to use this thing. And Maddie has all sorts of ideas, thoughts, feelings, complaints perhaps even about the cost of higher education and what it's like to try to get through life as a poor college student who's being paid minimum wage for slave labor here. No, actually, I pay her a lot better than that, and I'm not a slave driver. I'm a really, really nice boss. Maddie knows it, and if she doesn't tell you, if she tells you otherwise, don't believe her. I'll be back in just a minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
That's Mr. Baber's Neighbors, folks. Thanks for bringing us back to the Fallon Forum. I want to thank Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling for sponsoring this segment of our show. If you've got AC issues or, heaven forbid, heating issues, give Leonard Tinker a call at 371-2114. I also want to thank the Fighting Burrito, where I had lunch yesterday. Gosh, those are good burritos. And also Story County Veterinary Clinic on Highway 30 between Ames and Nevada. And one more shout out to Ritual Cafe, the little cafe there in downtown Des Moines at 13th and Locust, where little cafe with big ideas, great music, great coffee, great, which I don't drink, but I love the great tea and the smoothies. All right, so we've got Channing Dutton joining us for the final two segments of the show. We've got a lot to talk about with Channing today. News about Australia's summer of fire, but also looking at the connections between the Western wildfires, the drought, the jet stream, and this incredibly fine, wonderful weather we're having here in Iowa. There's a connection. And we're going to talk about that with Channing when we kick off the third and fourth segment of this program. But first, something I've not had to deal with personally for a while, but I did have to deal with when my kids were in college not too many years ago. College debt. The woes and strife that a poor college student has to deal with on a regular basis. Maddie is among them. Now, I was teasing myself earlier. I actually pay her pretty well and treat her pretty well. Don't I?
You try.
I try. Well, I
Yes,
try.
you
All
do.
right. I try.
You do.
Maddie Kane, poor college student. Welcome to the program.
Super broke. Can you see me? There we go.
Yeah, this is new, folks. This is our new in producer studio camera. We're testing it out. It looks like it's working pretty well.
I think so. It was blurry for a couple weeks. That's why we didn't use it.
Yeah.
But
So anyway, you are at DMAC.
DMAC.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
And
I will
you-
be starting my third year in the fall.
Okay. Third year.
Nice.
So this is the third year of a 4-year program.
Third year of like a 2-year program. Yeah.
Well, it only took me 10 years to finish my 4-year undergraduate degree.
Well, Nick and I, we refuse to get loans. So that makes the process a lot longer, I think, because we're paying pretty much out of pocket for anything that isn't covered by grants.
So you refuse to get loans on principle because they keep turning you down, or why?
I refuse to get loans because I don't want to put myself in a position where I have this giant bill that I have to pay later. And I don't know if I'm going to be. I think people assume that they're going to get their degree and then have this big paying job and they'll be able to pay for everything. I'm not sure if that'll be true in my case.
Well, I did have a friend who got her undergraduate degree and then talked about going back to grad school so she could, quote, wait on higher end tables. The truth is, it is hard to see the direct correlation between a college education and lucrative employment. There are some professions where that's easier to accomplish than others. My son is fortunately in one, but it's not always easy.
I don't think so, because they look at other things just in that. They also look at experience. I mean, you can come out of college with like a 4 or 6 year degree and not have any experience, and you'll still be turned down, when you're competing with other people for one job.
Yeah. So, again, you haven't taken out any loans. So instead of borrowing money, you've been robbing banks.
I steal cars on occasion.
Steal cars. Okay, that's good.
It's difficult to get money out of just stereos now, I think. So you have to go for the whole thing. The whole car.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have been the one that broke into my Subaru recently and stole the 1995 tape deck.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
that really happened?
Yeah, it did. Well, no, one day I went out there. My car had been sitting there for a bit because I don't use it all that much. There was a notice on my car from a salvage company offering to come and haul it away for parts. I was very offended.
Oh, we called that person.
Well, yeah, we did. And 2 weeks later, I come out and my car's been broken into, the glove compartment rifled through, and the 1995 tape deck stolen. Talk about mixed messages. I mean, I don't know what to make of that.
I think it bought somebody a pack of cigarettes. I don't think it got them much more than that, though.
Could you get a pack of cigarettes out of an old tape deck? I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, but you have not, despite our banter here, I think it's probably safe to report to the authorities who are listening to our program. Hello, NSA. How are you? That Maddie Kane is not breaking into cars and stealing things in order to fund her college education. So how do you do it?
I haven't broken any laws.
You don't take loans. You don't rob cars or banks. How do you pay for college?
We go very slowly. I get financial aid, so I get grants.
Because you're smart?
And broke. Yeah. My parents don't make enough for me to not get financial aid, basically. Nick, on the other hand, his situation is a little more unique, where his parents make enough to where they should be able to provide for his college, but they have a lot of commitments of their own, and so they can't help him out. So he can't get financial aid, and he has to pay out of pocket. He can't even get a decent loan.
Okay, so you're kind of stuck with, it isn't just a matter of choosing to avoid going into debt. You're kind of stuck with this option.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're
scared of debt.
You're 3 years into a 2-year program. It looks like you'll be able to finish it up in 4 years?
I'm hoping that I could finish it by the end of year 3. That's what I'm hoping. I'm not sure about Nick, though, because last semester we were only able to afford one class for him. So
one class?
So he took 3 credits last semester.
Okay. Well, it's a responsible approach. College debt is just a huge burden these days. The cost of a higher education is what, 700%. It's gone up by 700% in 30 years. If you apply the same rate of growth in college costs to, for example, a gallon of milk, people would not even drink milk again. I saw some. I can't remember the exact figure now. I saw some information about that, and it is out of this world.
And I think that it's really difficult too. I know there have been times where I felt like I'm paying more every year, and I'm not getting the quality of education that I would think that I would be. I don't want to use the word entitled, but I'll say it, entitled to, having. Oh,
one of those.
I'm one of those entitled.
One of those freeloaders who think you're entitled to an education.
Entitled to an education.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you just said something that interested me. You're not getting the education you want. Are you saying that the instruction you're receiving is inadequate? Has it declined in quality? Where are you getting at?
I've taken, because, I go to DMAC, and I've taken a lot of good classes. I've had a lot of very good instructors who have a lot of education and really enjoy their jobs. But I've also come across some instructors who, they seem like they hate their jobs. I took a class my first year, It was cultural anthropology, and my instructor just shot the breeze the whole semester.
Maybe they don't hate their job. Maybe they just hate the students.
Well, that could be. But I think that would equal hating your job because the students are your job.
Probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I never learned, we didn't cover anything ever. We never had homework. I skipped class maybe once or twice a week, and I passed with an A+. And I don't think I should have. If that was a good class, I would not have passed.
Well, if you have any integrity, you'll go back and ask for a lower grade, right?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So, well, it's an interesting point. I mean, you know, for college to be a helpful experience for the students, it has to be a place where the faculty and staff feel nurtured and appreciated as well.
Right.
And not burned out. And you know, burnout comes from a number of directions, and sometimes it's a personal choice to stick with a job that you may no longer have any enthusiasm for.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. So anyway, when you finish, though, probably next year, you'll have no college debt.
I hope so. That is the goal.
That's unusual.
Yes. I have a family friend who I think she racked up in 4 years $50,000 in debt. And your phone is ringing.
Oh. Well, don't answer unless it's Frank from Des Moines.
No.
Okay.
Although he's on hold.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, it is unusual. And $50,000 in debt is not uncommon anymore.
No, it's not. It's amazing because you still have, I think, some places who want degrees from, you know, they don't want degrees from community colleges. People who hire you want degrees from, you know, Iowa State, University of Iowa, bigger universities. And while I think that they're still cheaper, I mean, I would definitely go to Iowa State or the University of Iowa before I would go anywhere else. It's difficult because I think that even though I have those experiences with bad instructors at DMAC, I still think that the education that I get there is really good. Good enough to get a good job and be prepared to, you know, without experience. So,
well, anyway, I wish you luck with that. It's been great working with you here on the program, and that sounded like I'm saying goodbye to you. No, I'm saying goodbye to you for this segment.
Yes.
You'll be back hard at work on Monday. We are taking Thursday and Friday off, folks. Independence is such a big deal in this country. We ought to take an entire 4-day weekend to celebrate it. So
I do get a whole 4-day weekend.
You do.
Actually.
See, am I a wonderful boss or what?
Yes.
There you go. That's what I wanted to hear. All right, Maddie Kane, folks, poor college student talking about her experience trying to get through college without going into debt. Good luck with that. So far, so good.
I think so.
It means making some sacrifices.
Yes,
like working
definitely.
with me.
Yep.
And also spreading out the credits a bit further than the plan usually is intended to take. So anyway, good stuff, Maddie. Maddie, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem.
Okay, again, I want to remind you folks, this segment of our conversation brought to you by Tinker Heating and Cooling. Tinker himself, a big believer in the importance of college education, a graduate from Simpson College, in fact. And speaking of Simpson College, that's the site of the Des Moines Metro Opera's season this year, as it is every year. This is the 41st season, 41 seasons for the Des Moines Metro Opera. One of the best opera companies in the country, attracting a lot of talent and a lot of interest from all over the place. Check out their 3 productions, Romeo and Juliet, Peter Grimes, and Electra, at the Simpson College campus in Indianola. I also want to thank Sargent's Garage at 6th and College. You know, it's been over a year since I've had an oil change. Well, not me personally, my car. And it's time. I got to go in and get an oil change. Anyway, Dan Kelly, Real Estate, also another sponsor of this program. Dan Kelly's sells and buys homes and businesses in Newton. Check him out if you have an idea about a home or business that you want to sell or buy in that wonderful town. I'll be back in a few minutes. Channing Dutton's going to join us. We're going to talk about climate change and particularly about Australia's Summer of Fire.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. of a new era begins. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
That's Max Wellman, folks. Max has a real fun thing going on with the Cafe de Scala on Wednesday, July 10th from 8 till who knows when. They'll be playing jazz to a very, very fine dining experience, and it's worth checking out. You can find out more information about that at maxwellmanmusic.org. And I want to thank the Des Moines Metro Opera for sponsoring this segment of our show. And again, remind you about the fantastic theater, fantastic performances that they deliver night after night this time of the year. Also, a nod to some of my other business allies, Community CPA and Associates, the Fighting Burrito, both here in Des Moines and in Ames, and Gateway Market at 20th and Woodland. Please support the businesses that make this program possible. All right, we're going to talk climate change the rest of this program. And a reminder, too, we are taking tomorrow off and Friday. Heck, let's make a 4-day weekend out of it. So the Fallon Forum will resume on Monday, July 8th. You're welcome to call this program. I see we have one person on hold. That may be Frank from Des Moines. So if you want Frank to be the only caller who gets to have a say in this, then yeah, don't call this number, 244-0077, 244-0077. We're going to talk about the fine weather that Iowa is having and how that's connected to wildfires and droughts and whatnot. But first, we're going to go down under and check out what's going on in Australia, something I have not heard about until Channing brought it to my attention. It's being referred to as the Summer of Fire.
That's correct, Ed. One of the things that we lose track of during our own Summer of Fire is that we're not in this peculiar weather pattern all by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so during what would be our winter, of course, that's the Australian summer.
Right.
And they were constantly whacked by incredibly high temperatures and continuation of drought. Now, like the United States, and particularly the Western United States, that drought and dry weather started to spawn a series of wildfires. And so the climate news and the news out of Australia for especially the months of December, January, February.
The heart of winter.
Right.
Okay.
The heart of our winter, their summer.
Yep.
But the heart of their summer was what they called the Summer of Fire. And they had fires burning all across the Australian continent. They break that into 6 states. They had substantial fires burning in 5 of the 6 states. They had record temperatures going day after day after day for 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row. Now, where this is all of interest to us today is we're sitting in a pretty temperate, pretty cool, very wet Iowa, and these are weather conditions that we've seen only in the last maybe 3-4 months. You know, in March, we were still talking about...
talking about drought.
We were talking about drought. And then it turned. You know, we had kind of a late winter, not kind of a late winter, a real late winter, and then rain, rain, rain.
And so the wettest spring on record.
Exactly.
Although, you know, it's starting to even out now. We really haven't had as much rain lately, and the forecast is looking drier, but still, it is the wettest January through June we've had. And I think the only reason we didn't see those kind of floods we saw in 2008, 1993, even 2010, was because the ground was so parched from the drought. It just soaked it all up.
Right. We were so far behind. And you know, I read that report that, you know, it's the wettest from January to June, but it's really the wettest from late February to June.
Right.
Because that's where the precipitation came from. Now, all of this struck me as relevant, of course, because we're seeing just, you know, the main story. You watch any nightly news or any news summary, the story is fire, 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 temperature. Oh, yeah. Temperature in California, drought in California. 117
in Las Vegas, 128 in Death Valley.
Right, and I just read it. I think they actually broke that record. They upgraded it to 129, which is the hottest temperature ever recorded.
In the U.S.
In the U.S. Mm. Now, about a year ago, Stephen Chu, who happens to carry around a Nobel Prize and was the president's energy czar, Stephen Chu came out and said, you know, I am concerned about what's going to happen to Southern California, because when I look at what's happening to the precipitation, in particular the snowpack in Southern California, he says, I don't see how they will keep their cities going by 2050.
Without water.
Without water.
Yeah.
Because, sooner or later, we can get along without oil. We can't get along without water.
Let's switch back to Australia again, because we tend not to pay as much attention to the Southern Hemisphere as we should. I've been reminded of that recently reading Bill Bryson's book from a sunburned, in a sunburned country, I believe it's called. And it's always been warm down in Australia. But the temperatures they're experiencing this past summer, meaning December, January, February, are unprecedented, you're saying.
Oh, the Australians are using the words historic. Well, you know what? So are we. They've added new color to their temperature charts for reporting what is going on in the land of Australia. And what this does is, this is this concept that you often hear about in the climate discussions of connecting the dots. Where the press continues to be weak is they fail to connect the dots. Is there a connection between what happens in Australia and is there a connection what happens in the United States?
Well, what is there?
Well, let me point out one other article that showed up just before it started. Maybe as the rains really started here in Iowa, and that is studies were released indicating that climate change is going to double the areas of burn in the western United States by 2050, double from what we're seeing today. And people today are paying attention. Our sunsets are affected. The smoke in the atmosphere is noticeable depending on where you are in the United States. And so the point here is that this is being discussed by the learned scholars. This is being discussed by the people, who really are educating themselves and working on looking at, what is actually happening. Now, what brought this all to a head for me here in the last week was maybe 3-4 days ago, I read a news story, and that story was about, has anybody talked about the fact that we were going to see these type of problems in the past? Climate models. One of the things that people love to complain about is, these models are, it's a bunch of computers, and it's kind of models are typically brushed away with the kind of the concept of garbage in, garbage out.
Why are we so anti-science? I guess because science is, if you take science seriously, you've got to criticize some of what industry wants to accomplish.
We're anti-science, Ed, because of money. We're not anti-science because of the way we were taught in school.
Right.
We're not anti-science because of what the professors did in high school or what the professors are doing at Des Moines Area Community College or what the professors are teaching in almost any college in the state of Iowa. 138, you can't call them climate scientists, but college professors of science have signed a declaration to Governor Branstad saying we need to take a look at this drought that we've been experiencing, and we need to put it in the context of what we have done to our climate.
We had Drake Professor David Kurad-Hari on this program a while back, one of the leading scientists who signed that statement.
And David is smart. He should be on all the time, telling us what's going on. Yeah. Well, anyway, so smart people looked back and they said, okay, what did the models tell us in 2004 about what we could expect in the future? Now, this is where the discussion moves to Arctic ice. You might remember that in 2012, we had a substantial burn-off or melt-off of Arctic ice.
Well, starting back in 2007 or 8 is when it started being very, very noticeable.
There was a huge drop in 2007, 2008, stabilized a little bit for 9, 10, 11, but then dropped again to unprecedented levels during the era of man in 2012. Ice is white. It reflects the solar radiance. It reflects the heat that comes to the planet and pushes it away from us.
Yeah, when it's not there, the dark ocean tends to absorb the light and increase the problem, right?
Right. And here's what the climate modelers were saying in 2004. They said, as we reduce that Arctic ice, that white ice, and replace it with dark water, what we're going to see is a warmer ocean temperature. And we're going to see that warmer ocean temperature continues to lead to higher atmospheric temperatures. Vapor goes into the air. It's the water, vapor, rain cycle. Mm-hmm. The vapor goes into the air and it changes the jet stream. Mm-hmm. Because what it does is it changes the way the jet stream delivers weather to the northern hemisphere. Right. And one of the things that they said in 2004 was, we expect to see lack of snow, we expect to see drought, and we expect to see record temperatures in the Southwest. Now today, 94% of New Mexico is under either severe or extreme drought conditions. California is in drought. We're seeing the record temperatures. And within minutes of reading this story about, well, what did they say in 2004 and how does that play out in 2013? I read the story about the 19 firefighters dying in
That's so
in
horrible.
Phoenix.
That is so horrible.
And what they faced was, and again, it's often said, and it's worth repeating, can you say 19 firefighters die because of the lack of Arctic ice or the diminishing of the Arctic ice? Well, no, you can't make that connection because tragedies happen and bad things happen. But we're having more fires, we're having more intense fires, and we're having fires in areas that we haven't seen it.
And then the winds come up in ways that they don't often, and just I mean, it was a 200 acres, and then within a few hours after these 40 and 50 mile an hour gusts were occurring, it spread to 2,000 acres, and then after that over to 8,000 acres. I mean,
we're sitting here in Iowa, and this is hard for us to see.
Yeah, we don't do fires here. We do floods, tornadoes, but
right, we're very good at those. What brings this all kind of together or ties it into a tight bow is one fact about the 2004 study, and that is the 2004 study was predicting loss of Arctic ice that we saw in 2012 for 2050.
Yeah,
let me repeat that:
2050. Right. And look, it's here already.
So the criticism of the models is that
too conservative.
They are too conservative.
Yeah. So what about what did the models say for Australia? Anything relevant to the heat and fires that they've been seeing?
I don't have that answer, but what I do know from the general discussion of accuracy of climate models is that if the models have a kind of a systemic failure, what that systemic failure is they're too conservative, and we're moving at a much more rapid pace than what we've previously seen. And so we know, for example, in terms of the northern hemisphere, that the movement of the jet stream, Ed, we're almost to the point where you can predict the weather based on the jet stream.
On the jet stream, sure.
You can just see the map on the weather. It's almost more helpful to me than what's going to happen in the next 3 days.
Sure.
Because right now we are the beneficiaries. We're on the correct side of the jet stream trough.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why we're going to have kind of a mild 4th of July.
It's been a beautiful summer.
Exactly right. A year ago, we didn't have that. But people in Idaho, people in Montana, people in the West, what they are seeing is a summer that is shaking them in terms of what does it mean.
Yeah. I've got to run to a quick break here, folks. When we come back, we'll go to our phone lines. And unless you want Frank from Des Moines to be the only call I take, do not call 244-0077. 244-0077. For the sake of for Channing's sake, for my producer's sake, for the sake of all life on Earth, please call 244-0077. Just teasing you, Frank, a little bit. Hey, I want to thank again the Des Moines Metro Opera for sponsoring this segment of our show. Channing, a fan of the opera?
I have to admit that I'm not the biggest fan of the opera, but I am a fan of the Gateway Market.
Oh, okay. Well, I used to not be that hot on the opera either, but I really warmed up to it. I really, and this particular troupe, they really do a fantastic job. I mean, just the props, the quality of the singing, it's really, really sensational. So, put them on your mix, folks, of things to do culturally in Des Moines through the middle of this month. It's the Des Moines Metro Opera at Simpson College. I also want to thank Community CPA and Associates and the Fighting Burrito and Gateway Market for helping to sponsor this segment of our program. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Channing Dutton about climate change and what the models are saying and why we should be gravely concerned about how much more quickly everything is moving than what those models predicted.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
That's Mary McAdams, and we're back to our final segment of the Fallon Forum. You're welcome to call and join us here, 244-0077. Channing Dutton and I talking about climate change. Hey, one thing, I want to talk about the Great March for Climate Action and how it might be impacted by some of what's going on out west, but there's another Trans-American event happening right now that I think is of great interest to people. It's the $1 Million Marathon. This is an effort sponsored by Above and Beyond Cancer. Dr. Richard Deming is involved with that. In fact, Dr. Deming ran the first leg of this marathon. It's 160 consecutive marathons passing the baton across the country to raise $1 million for cancer research. It's a great effort, going to be coming through Des Moines in mid-July. So thanks to them for their support for this program. I do want to thank 3 of my business partners as well. Tinker Heating and Cooling, Hawk Restaurant, where 90% of the food that you consume at that restaurant comes from local farms, and also the Story County Veterinary Clinic on Highway 30 between Ames and Nevada. But to wrap up our conversation on Australia, I mean, we see what's happening out west. 19 firefighters dying. Tens of thousands of acres being burned. One town, Yarnell, half the homes being demolished. Is that the same kind of tragedies they're experiencing in Australia?
Australia being more advanced into basically a desert state, their numbers of property destruction are less than what we're seeing in the fires that we have, at least the fires that we're starting to see in the last 2 to 3 years. Part of that may be just wisdom in terms of where to build, maybe wisdom in terms of where you can actually function in Australia, given its kind of natural state. Mm-hmm. But one thing's for sure, here in the United States, in the West, people want to live in the wooded country. They want to live in what is going to be and already is established as the fire zones. And this is why if we lived in the West, we would have the suitcase packed and we would have the valuables, the computer ready to be unplugged.
Wow.
So that we could leave on short notice when the 200-acre fire that you refer to
becomes an 8,000-acre fire.
Exactly right.
So the Great March for Climate Action, again, we're sounding the alarm about the urgency of addressing this climate crisis, and it's going to set out from Los Angeles, actually Santa Monica, Los Angeles, on March 1st of next year, and then cross Arizona, not too far from where the worst of these fires is happening, and then through New Mexico, where again we've got lots of fire going on, and as you indicated, we have pretty much universal drought conditions. What potential? This is. I'm much more concerned about the big picture on the planet, on people's homes, on people's lives, but I have to be thinking too about the well-being of 1,000 people marching across the country. Is it likely that in March and April we'll be running into these kinds of problems?
You know, Ed, I think the first thing that's likely is what fire area will you actually go through? Because today the buzzword is Yarnell.
Sure.
But we don't know what that buzzword's going to be in a week. Because the fire season,
or next year,
this is prime fire season. Los Angeles has their own problems with the associated with the fire and with the drought, and so what the marchers are for sure going to see, there's not going to be any debate about that, is they're going to see dry, arid land transferring itself into desert, and a lot of this land is going to be land that had the potential with suitable water to be productive and to be productive for food.
Yeah.
And this leads us right to the food question.
Yeah.
And that is, as the southern 2/3 of California is decimated, California is an agricultural super engine.
Sure.
Just like Iowa.
Biggest in the country with the San Joaquin Valley. Sure.
So the marchers will see issues that people in Iowa will be particularly interested in, and that the rest of the country needs to continue to focus on, which is the great concept of the march.
Yeah. Well, it's always good to have a dissenting voice in these conversations, Channing, because we got to remember, not everybody thinks like you and I. Some people are victims of really, really bad thinking. And one of those is my friend Frank from Des Moines. Frank, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hi, Ed. Your microphone's just a little loud.
Sorry.
Listen, Ed, you're going to have to quit fibbing to your guests.
Fibbing to my guests?
Yes. You have theater every day online. It's called Diaries of a Bleeding Heart Progressive Populist.
So where was the fib?
You told your first guest you haven't never been in theater.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. All right. So, funny guy.
Okay.
Frank, funny guy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I heard the other day that the record temperature for Death Valley was back in the 1800s, and it topped out at 134 degrees. So that's 5 degrees warmer.
I don't think that's accurate, Frank.
Well, that's what they said.
Well, they're not saying that now. I don't know who is, but they're not saying that now.
Provided that is the case, the Industrial Revolution started around the 1830s with the ballpoint pen and the locomotive. So how much global warming was going on in the 1830s to create this 134 degree, if that's the case? Or if it was just at 130, what's changed?
Channing?
Well, Frank, one of the things, let's start with the idea of someone, you read somewhere, and I believe you, that someone out there is saying, it was 134 degrees in Death Valley sometime in the distant past. And those are troubling things for any person of reason, because if the media reports it, and if we read it or we see it online or someone blogs about it, the idea is, well, is that right? And one of the things that I do when I look at this climate information is, and actually this is what got me started, was I go to other sources and I look for verification. Now, in a sense, that's the scientific method.
Right.
And that is someone posits a theory, that theory then is available for general testing, and does it stand the test of time? And so when we talk about the Industrial Revolution, the one thing that's true is this. The rise in atmospheric CO2 is well documented by repeated studies and by continual testing and verification. We actually started measuring it in 1959, but it has been carefully measured since that time, and that number continues to move, and it moves higher. And as CO2 moves, temperature moves. This is, again, well tested and well replicated. And so the idea of, has it been hotter in geological time? Well, you know what? I'm sure that when asteroids were striking the planet...
Yeah, dinosaurs were roaming the Earth. They needed it good and warm.
Let me ask you this. I'm 55 years old. I'm a lifelong Iowan. maybe I can't remember back prior to about 6 years old, but in my lifetime, I don't recall it snowing May the 3rd. Now, it snowed May the 3rd of this year.
Right, that's part of the whole climate model.
Okay, but
Frank, actually, no. Let me go beyond that. The record snowfall for May in Des Moines, I believe, was 1.1 inches. We got over 6 inches on May 2nd, I believe, May 2nd or 3rd. Yeah, that's part of the model. That's what the climate scientists are predicting. Wetter, weirder.
Okay, but Ed, as I've said before, if George Zimmerman, who is having a trial right now, gets to claim everything in the trial, exculpatory or otherwise, it benefits him. He's not going to lose. And it's the same thing I say with you guys. I mean, several years ago, we had snowfall, 08 or 09, we had snowfall in all of the lower 48 states. We had record
Right. It's
cool
part of the, Frank, it's part of the model. It's what's supposed to happen with climate change. Again, the climate is the big picture. It gets warmer, and the weather that results from it is all over the board.
Yeah,
overall
but
warmer, but it's all over the board.
Is if the ice caps are all melting, and one of these days they're all going to be gone, what's generating the cold fronts that move down, that causes the warm fronts to clash into the cool fronts and causes the precipitation, causes the weather? What happens? What are you guys going to do when all the ice caps are melted and there's no more, cold? Where's the cold coming from?
I don't even know if I follow that, Channing.
Well, Frank, I'm kind of following you.
Okay, good.
And and here's what I can tell you. You and I are about the same age, and I bet that when you saw it snowing 6 inches on May 2, in your mind you thought, you know what? I don't like this. This is unusual. I haven't seen it during my lifetime. And then when we have these winters where there's no snow, we go December, January, February with nothing. I bet you also, in some sense you go, I wonder what's going on here. And many of my friends who have doubts, and there's lots of people who have doubts, I'm not sure that they're spending the time to educate themselves about the doubts, but I even say to my doubters, hey, before you get in your car and you drive to Iowa City, are you at the point now where you check the weather to see what the weather is actually going to bring you during a 2-hour drive to Iowa City? And person after person says to me, you bet I do. I got an app on my phone. I take a look.
Yeah. Well, our normal snowfall in Iowa is roughly 32 inches.
No, it depends on which part of Iowa. It's
well,
more
here
out in
eastern central Iowa is 32 inches. A couple of years ago, we had over 64 inches. From the first time it snowed until it melted off in the winter or in the spring, the ground was never uncovered at one point.
Part of the climate model, Frank. It's part of the model.
Sometimes we will have 3 or 4 snows and they'll melt away and it'll be green. And
Frank,
and
you're singing my tune, Frank. This is part of what's supposed to happen. Why do you hate science? Why do you hate science, Frank?
Because you're claiming both sides of the argument.
No. You get the extremes when you get climate change. That is one of the extremes.
I would win every argument with you, Ed, if I claim both sides.
No.
Well, let me jump in here. And Frank, I think the one fallacy of the position that you have is this. There's no climate scientist. There's no model that says we won't see extremes. And so people who want to deny say, well, Ed and Channing and people like him, they think the planet's just going to warm, and everything is going to melt, and it's just going to kind of blow up into a big ball of molten rock. And that's not what anybody who is working in this area is talking about. They're talking about extremes.
Listen, you are a very calm-spoken, very sincere man, and people might say the same thing about me, but sincere people can be sincerely wrong.
Well, and Frank,
I've never heard anybody say that about you, Frank.
Frank, I can tell you that sincerity is only part of this equation. But the bottom line is this: if you allow people to redefine the argument to say, "Well, the planet's going to melt," well, then you're right. Guys like Ed and Channing and smarter people than us, we'll never be able to convince anybody. But if you focus on extremes, that's what has been predicted and is happening.
Frank, I've got to wrap up the show. I want to wish you a happy Independence Day. One thing you and I can probably agree on is this a great country or what? And we should certainly enjoy the 4th of July weekend. Right?
Yes, happy 4th, Ed.
Okay, maybe I'll see you at the Yankee Doodle Pops concert.
All righty, thank you.
All right, Frank, thanks. Again, I want to thank the $1 Million Marathon for helping to sponsor this program. 160 marathons, one after the other across the country to raise money for cancer. Some of the same logistical thinking that goes into planning that marathon is also what we're using to plan this great March for Climate Action next year, which is going to be a huge event and hopefully will have a huge impact on an issue that we're beginning to see some progress. I wanted to talk with you, Channing, about the president's speech, but we didn't even get time for that. Overall, I was encouraged. You?
I'm encouraged. I think he still has a big brother in terms of corporate America looking closely over his shoulder.
Well, let's have you on this program again soon. I want to talk. I think this is one of the most important speeches a president has ever made in modern times, and I want to talk about it, even though I agree that it does not go far enough. But that's another conversation. We're out of time today. I want to thank all of my business supporters, including Dan Kelly's real estate business in Newton, the Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering in Beaverdale, and also the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit. I want to thank Maddie Kane, not just a great producer, but also a great guest on today's program, poor college student Maddie Kane. Checks may be made out to Madison Kane's College Fund and sent to the Fallon Forum here, or not. She's laughing a little bit. Okay, I also want to thank Webcast One Live for providing the studio. Have a great weekend, folks. I'll see you back here on Monday.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.